Welcome back to Voices of Impact, where we explore leadership beyond performance metrics and into identity, presence, and sustainable authority. Today's conversation begins with a powerful question. So, what if the next level of your leadership isn't about doing more, but reclaiming who you are? So many high achieving women have mastered performance, right? So they check the boxes, earn the titles, commanded the rooms. And yet, during seasons of transition, something deeper calls a reclaiming of voice, a redefining of authority, and a release of overperformance. I'm excited to welcome Natalie Jobity to the show. Natalie is a faith-driven leadership and executive coach for high-achieving women navigating career and leadership transitions. So she helps women strengthen confidence, visibility, influence, and command rooms of power without overperforming, self-doubt, or burnout. So with more than 2 decades of experience across marketing, corporate leadership, entrepreneurship, and executive coaching, Natalie blends strategic depth with grounded wisdom, which is very rare, right? So that's amazing. She's also the author of From Peak to Fabulous, Flaunting It, and It's Your Time to Shine, Girl, guiding women to rise with clarity and confidence. This conversation is deeply aligned with what we both believe, right? Authority is embodied, not performed. Overperformance is often protect, not power. And then visibility without alignment leads to burnout. So in this episode, we'll explore what it truly means to reclaim your voice, especially during seasons of change. So welcome to have you on the show, Natalie.
Glad to be here, Veena. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Awesome. Yes, let's get into it. So Natalie, can you share that moment when you realized your voice had been dimmed by conditioning and what started you on the path of reclaiming it?
I think there were many moments. Like I grew up very insecure, very wanted to be invisible, literally.
Right.
And I did not speak up. When I came to the US for college, I would literally like I would have answers in my head, but I would not raise my hand. And if they called me, I'd be like, like I literally did not use my voice.
Yeah.
I would say a shift came. It would have been in my I'm trying to think. It would have been in my career where, again, when I started my market research career, I was, again, very like overachiever, thinking I'm not worthy enough, thinking I have to do all this stuff. And then somewhere around, and I wasn't speaking up. Like I remember, like I grew up, I grew up in a culture where you had to respect your elders. So I would be like, my bosses, I'd be like, where to call him by his first name because it's like that's what we did, what they did here. But I never felt like I could speak up for what I wanted or needed. And so, but there came a point, like when I get my annual reviews, I'd always fear that, oh my God, what are they going to tell me? Are they going to let me go? And literally it would be opposite. And I'd be like, oh, and I'd be so shocked because I literally thought that I wasn't that good
Right.
enough. And then
Right.
by somewhere around the 5 year mark, when I was having a review, my leader at the time, manager at the time, she's like, Natalie, I was a project manager, senior project manager. It's like you're a project manager for all these years, and do you want to excel higher? Do you want to be like a research manager or director? And I swear, like I was never thinking those thoughts. I was just like doing my job, doing my job, doing my job. And that moment shifted. I don't know. I think I just went like, oh, I could be a director?
Right.
Seriously. And I chose that path, and that path opened up so much with me and leadership and using my voice, advocating for others. Like it just literally just like opened up a new portal of my life. And it's because I think in that moment, and I was a little bit older, but I'd done so much work. But when she said those words that I could be a director, and in my mind at that time, that was like a really high profile role, more visibility, etc. I thought, I deserve that. I'm going to take it for the first time. I think I'm going to claim that this is true for me.
Right.
And it just changed so much the trajectory of how my career went and how I express myself in my career.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So good for you. So amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I can relate to a lot of the things that you said, as I'm also an executive coach turned into a business coach. And it was all about, like, I think it really comes from sometimes not only societal family conditioning, right? You said, especially in
Total.
my parents' house, like, don't talk this way. You said elders. I always had to dim my light as a voice, as a, woman of color. And, it was just like, don't do this, don't go out there, why did you say that? And even
Yep.
now, like it's still happening. Like, why did you start this podcast? Like, why don't you go back to corporate? And I can relate of not being good enough, right? And it still happens, right? It's always there, but we know how to navigate it. And
Yes.
like you said, I had clients who I could see easily they were VP level, but they're like, are you sure? I don't know if I have what it takes, but like really knowing yourself and your worth and what you bring to the table, which you did, and having that like aha moment of like, I really deserve this can change a lot. So thank you so much. And kudos to you for reclaiming your voice and having that and sharing that with others right now. So awesome. And you talk about identity pivots, right? So what does an identity pivot feel like or look like from the inside, whoever's listening? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand what that is. And how did you know you were in one?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things, but like one of the core things is that you're moving the way you always move, operating the way you always operate, and for some reason it starts to feel off. Or I would use the word misaligned. It just starts to
Yeah.
feel off. Something's not right. I don't know what it is. And then it might even start to be like, you know, this isn't working for me anymore, or this isn't landing the same way for me anymore. I don't feel fulfilled or excited or happy about, that's when it's like something inside of us is speaking loudly saying you need to reposition yourself, right? Or you need to embrace something that you have not been embracing about yourself. So pivot could look like either a reclamation or actually a new embodiment of something that's been there, but it's been quiet or stuffed down or squished down. So let's say it could be your voice, like you haven't been using your voice. And for some reason in that particular season, your being is asking you to speak out, speak up, and it's uncomfortable, but you're being pushed or challenged. So the pivot could be anything that where inside of you, it's just not feeling centered and again in alignment. And you know that something has to shift, something has to pivot, and you may not be aware of that. So that's why having a coach or a mentor or whatever is so beneficial to so many people because, we can be so lost in the clouds of our own inner voices that isn't necessarily telling us the truth all the time. And we may not be wanting to even own that I'm actually feeling really uncomfortable, but I'm going to act like if I'm okay. That whole like facading, I call it, like where it's like, I feel really not comfortable with whatever I'm doing right now, but I'm going to act as if everything's great. And
Mhm.
that's again misalignment as well. And so all those things are things and signs that we need to do something, be in a different mode, a different posture, a different way of being that becomes more in alignment with who we truly are.
Amazing. I love that. Yes, I love how you really neatly explain what identity pivot is. And, people go through identity pivots in different stages of their career or even personal life. I went through this is actually my third or fourth one, honestly, because we just evolve
I
over.
was going to say there's definitely more than it's a different
Yeah,
season. So there's different pivots throughout our life. Yes.
exactly. Because people think I went through one and then, oh my God, I have to go through another. It just keeps evolving, it's never ending. So all of this inner work, you evolving, you becoming is never ending. And it's actually a fun process. People think it's like, oh my God, I have to think about it and I have to like feel into it, but actually enjoy the process. And like you said, it's really about the misalignment. You'll have like this restlessness feeling, like your heart is like, or your soul is like screaming for something. But then your head is like, no, like stay safe or play small. And
Yeah.
you're just like, I just had it recently. And I was just like, my soul is just restless. Like something's missing. I need to change. I need to work on something, whether that's like, reprogramming or my mindset or energy levels. Like, what is that? It's just like you said, even though we try to go in that one direction, something doesn't work out. Right. So these are the kind of signs. I'm so glad that you talked about that.
And
And
I want to say, when you mentioned mindset, that's a big one. I talk a lot about that in my book. Our mindset is so critical to how we respond to these nudges or these promptings from inside. And if we have a very fixed, "Oh, I want to stay here, I want to be in my comfort zone mindset,
Mhm.
fixed mindset, then we don't grow and evolve. And then we end up being dissatisfied and actually shrinking so much more and
Right.
probably end up like not being who we meant to be at all, as
Right.
opposed to stretching, getting out of a comfort zone, evolving. Like with my example, where it's like my whole world opened up in a whole different way that would never have opened up in that career if I had not said yes to that that position, that new position. So it's there's so many different stages and phases we go through, and just being true to who we are at every point, because we're always evolving. Like you mentioned, we're always evolving. Like Michelle Obama's book, I always think of the title of that book. I'm like, dang it, she took my title, because I always saw it as a title of book I'd write it one day, Becoming. We're always becoming something more as we grow and evolve and learn. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really enjoyable. So I used to think like, oh, I have to go through this inner work. Why me, right? You always have those questions, your logic comes in, your ego comes in. And when you go into your heart, you realize, wait, I'm actually become a better person, a better version of
Better
myself, a
version.
leader. Well, it could be a mother, it could be a leader, it could be a daughter, right? And it's actually a very enjoyable process. Like you said, just opportunities open up for you. The universe just kind of be like, hey, here are your people, here's your soul tribe. You're kind of manifesting everything you want. So it's actually a fun experience. And you talked about posture. So, how does leadership posture, or the spine of leadership, change during a transition? And why does it matter for perception and impact?
Posture is one of my favorite words. It's a word I've used for a long time, leadership, especially with leadership posture. So, as somebody who was a former image consultant after I left my corporate career, I talked a lot about our physical posture, our stance, our confidence, our command, our presence, our nonverbal cues. I talk about I was that was the whole basis of what I was doing, our visuals, the work I did. But what is much more relatable as in leadership posture is that I see it as intentionality. Like, I'm back to Brene Brown's quote, who you are is how you lead. That's one of my favorite quotes in leadership right now. And it's been not right now, it's been an old quote, but it's like I always use it because I love it, because it's back to your identity and the who. So that who is the heart of the posture you actually end up exuding, expressing to others. And that intentionality is about, who do I want to be seen as a leader, and how am I walking towards that path? And then who am I truly as a person? My values, my personality, my strengths, my integrity, my vibe. I mean, I have a whole chart about all what's in the who, and there's all these things that make up our identity and our faith, our beliefs, all those things. And credibility. So if I am true to my who as a person, and I know I want to be a leader who is, let's say, heart-centered or impact-minded or whatever, inclusive, but whatever our desire is, we walk that out. We have an intention, and with that intention, we set a goal to be that type of leader. So that posture, it's the word spine too is good there, because it's like, it's the foundation of how we come across and how we lead. If who we are is how we lead, because a lot of times what I would say in presentations I give, I'd say so many people still think leadership is about doing more, but it's about being more, and being more of who you truly are to make the impact you're designed to make. Because if you are being somebody else, or trying to pretend to be, or force yourself to be somebody else, or contort yourself to be who you think you are, you will never fully be in that place where you can make that true impact and where your true gifts can really shine.
Exactly. Amazing. Just love how you articulated it so clearly. So thank you so much for that. And yes, it looks different for everyone. Everyone has a unique value, but who they are. So leading with who you are and what you do. And I had to learn this for a long time because, like I said, conditioning comes in, society is like, you become a really good leader or a director, especially with corporate people. I see they have a lot of pressure. Like, I have to get on these meetings. I have to get that promotion by over like doing and doing and doing and working so hard. But yes, you do have to get those tasks done, but it's really about how you lead. Like you said, your vibe, right? What is that value that you have? How do you lead with those values? Maybe it's community, maybe it's collaboration, maybe it's authenticity, right? So really knowing your North Star, and like you said, that's your direction, your compass, and leading with that, and understanding like, what is it that, shaped you into the person you're here, right now, right? So it's like those kind of things that really make your identity. So I love how you talked about it, and really your mission, right? So going back to who and your why as well. So what kind of impact, right? So everyone has different types of legacy they want to make or impact, you have to see what's yours. What is your mission, right? Why do you
Yeah,
want to be that role model? And then lead from that. Storytelling, right? So if you are an entrepreneur or a corporate, get into that, lean into that storytelling, lean into vulnerability. We have gifts as a feminine woman that we want to start embodying. Like you said, it's really about embodying it, because it's one thing to say it like we think we're leading it, but really becoming, which is
we
the
have to
important thing.
be it.
Yes.
And I would say one of my biggest values is authenticity. So when I give these presentations, I'm always talking about authentic leadership at the end of the day, for who, what that means for you. So being authentic as opposed to pretending or performing. Performative leadership gets us nowhere at the end of the day, nowhere for ourselves and nowhere for those we lead, because it's not based on true reality or true intent. It's performing, whereas being an authentic leader is about being who you truly are, with your boundaries intact, of course, and all those things, but being who you truly are so people can earn and develop that trust, because that's so important, is to have that
Exactly.
trust among others, that they can look at you and see you and hear you and be like, and know your authority and trust in how you are guiding them as a leader. And whatever, if it's entrepreneurship or if it's in corporate, doesn't matter. That
Right.
authority you have becomes trustworthy, and it has integrity, and people can then begin to be led in a real true way, and where you can make your impact with your gifts, your unique gifting.
Exactly. Exactly. Making other people feel seen and heard, right? It's really building trust. I love how you talked about boundaries, because this is a huge thing that
Uh,
I also had to learn, right? These are things that I struggled to learn and no one taught me. And that's why we're bringing this to light on this conversation. So thank you so much. But what role do boundaries play in reclaiming power? And what's one boundary you encourage leaders to test first?
so boundaries are, yeah, huge, huge. And I actually, there's something I addressed in my book and a couple of times. I actually have had many of my clients, high achieving women who are heart centered, tend to not do well with boundaries
Yeah.
because they so want to prove or to give or to, they're thinking of the other person more than themselves, and they end up not having good boundaries. So boundaries is literally that place where that stance where you say, this is what I'm willing to tolerate in my relationships, in my interactions, and this is what I'm not. It's setting very clear guidelines to those you are leading or following or being around, and this is personal or professionally, where you say, this is who I am and this is what I'm willing to stand for and stand with. When you don't have boundaries, people just come all up into your energetic field, into your life, into your energy, and it takes away from you. It takes away your mojo, if you will.
Right.
I want to just quote something from my book, It's Your Time to
Yeah.
Shine, Girl, because I had tagged that. One of the things about boundaries too is that it is confidence building, because when we don't have boundaries, again, people take advantage of us, and then we end up being the ones who are exhausted or just feeling undervalued and all those things. When we have boundaries, people learn to respect us. People learn to say, oh,
Exactly.
she said so. So boundary looks like, I'm gonna work, or I'll take a half an hour break every day to make sure I'm feeling well. Or I'm gonna not accept any calls or texts after 9 p.m. Whatever it is. Those are like timing boundaries. Timing boundaries are crucial. So I just had a client where I said, I challenged her to come up with 3 healthy boundaries for her in her leadership. And one of them was about when people can reach out and contact her, because a lot of times we leave open the portal of phones or emails, and we say, contact me anytime or get back to me or whatever. And it's like, not realizing that we're losing our energy from that non-boundary where we have not set the boundaries. And it's also like, when people start to know your boundaries, I say 3 things. You set, you acknowledge, you say what it is, and then you honor it. 3 things with boundaries. You set the boundary, you acknowledge it to the person or people you're interacting with, and when they come up to that boundary, you have to honor that boundary for
Right.
yourself, right?
Exactly.
This guy, there's a man who has a quote that's very, very, I always quote it because it's so great. His name is Prentice Hemphill. He sums it up this way, says, boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously.
Yes. Yes. Love
So I
this.
love that.
Love that. And I can relate to everything that you said. Thank you so much for sharing this. And boundary setting, a lot of people think it's like physical, even if it's burnout. It's a similar thing to I said my client, right? She was like, I'm just very burnt out. I'm in meetings. And I was like, set the boundary. First of all, that's where she needed to speak up. That was her voice. And she was like, I know I need to set the boundary, but I'm just struggling to speak up. So we went back into her inner power, right? What does she truly value? Who is she, right? So we went into like who she really is, her unique story and all of that. We had her, speak up. And then the manager was like, sure, yeah, if you really need a break and you're burnout, take a break, right? So learning how to speak up, knowing your value. And like she said, I was like you said, honor it, right? To make sure it's consistent and you stand by it is very important. And energetics to my own story right now, what you said about relationships, like I had to set a boundary for my own partner, right? So sometimes I feel like knowing what's draining you and what's not draining you. So doing an energy audit for yourself is very important.
Uh-huh.
Or if you want to tell your clients, is every interaction you have, whether an entrepreneur or corporate, any meeting or you're posting content, every small thing or your environment, just kind of audit to see what makes you more creative? What's in more in your zone? If are you more in your feminine energy or are you more drained, like to Natalie's point? And if you feel drained, it's okay to say no. So I had to tell my partner, no, I cannot pick up this call. Let's only do weekends, max 20 minutes. And there are times when I'm a very empathetic person to speaking to women who have a very,
Yes.
yes, highly intuitive, but very highly empathetic. And that's the kind of woman I am, that I tend to put others first. So I was putting my family first and my partner first. I was over giving
Yeah.
and over performing, over like explaining myself, that I was completely drained. And I was like, I needed to set that boundary. My partner was like, hey, then don't let me, right? Set that boundary. And I was like, wait, but won't someone get mad at me for doing that? So I had to kind of honor them, be like, hey, I need to put myself first. And like you said, I can honor, right, the space that we have and the relationship together. And I love what you said, Natalie, about they respect you more. So that's how people actually value you more,
Yes.
is setting those boundaries and sticking with them. Be like, hey, like, I'm not apologizing for this because I'm focusing on myself. I really need it right now.
And I want to make it clear, like when we say that, we're not talking about it from a selfish way at all. It's about
Yeah.
we all have a certain bandwidth and we have to protect our bandwidth. So it's funny, back to empathy, because this is a huge one. It is why I have a section in my book where I say empathy and boundaries must unite. Because so
Right.
many empaths, I get it, they have a hard time because they're so concerned with the other person and how they feel, and
Right.
how it's like they have a hard time honoring their own needs. But I always say, if we don't honor our own needs, who's going to honor them for us? So
Exactly.
there's a both and here. We can be generous, we can be kind, we can be compassionate, empathetic, but also respect our needs and our bandwidth, our energy, our gifts, our talents, all the things. The boundaries can go out in a whole different aura of different areas. So yes, it's a huge leadership, not just leadership, just literally a huge, but especially as a leader, to have healthy boundaries, to be treated with respect, and to make sure we are moving in the way that is aligned with who we are, and not exhausting and depleting ourselves in the process just to prove that we're a good person or to make people feel better. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And that's where the energetic boundaries come in. So knowing your capacity, right? Like you said, I love you how you said bandwidth, right? Just because the empaths especially, and this is a huge lesson that I just wanted to say, is really that you can be generous, like Natalie said, and help and be kind, but fill your own cup first, right? So fill your own cup, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on someone else.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say that. It's okay. Own your voice and say it out loud. Some people might not like it. That's okay. They're not for you. If you're being yourself and you're unapologetic being yourself, you're going to have people who value you, and you're going to have people who are like, hey, you know what? That was rude. That's fine. Right. So I want to say that, like, you're going to have people who will not respect it,
Yes.
but the ones who respect it are your people. Right. So so that's what's very important, but don't stop being yourself and setting those boundaries, because they are very important for your energy, your mental health, your physical health. Especially as women, we take on so many roles as a mother. I even told my mother today, like, it's okay if you say no to something, it's totally fine. So having that reminders for anyone, especially for women, because we put so much burdens on our shoulder, and then our health gets affected and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So we need to take care of our well-being for any part, whether you're an entrepreneur or corporate. So amazing. And what metrics or signals do you use to know a client has truly shifted versus temporarily adapted to their behavior?
I don't necessarily have metrics per se. I can sense the vibe of the person. When I'm working with a client, I will know there's big transformation happening a couple of ways, not by a metric per se, but by who I'm seeing, the energy I'm seeing as I'm interacting with them. I literally will say, oh my gosh, I'm feeling a different energy. You're sounding more confident. You're sounding more aligned. You're sounding more bold. You're sounding more correct. Like whatever it is, I'll
Yeah.
sense, because I'm very intuitive. I'll sense, feel it. Or I might hear them say, well, like, for example, I'll say, I set a boundary that was really, really hard for me, and I'm like, wow, that's growth. Like you did something that is so not like you, to set a really hard boundary with somebody who could have actually distanced himself after that boundary was set, but you set it anyway. That to me is an example of growth and progress. So I feel like in my work, it's less about a metric per se,
Right.
our destination, but about an evolution that I'm sensing from the way they're engaging with me as the coach, and the vibe, the vibe and the energy I'm feeling, and how they're saying it, and how they come across, and how they're even like. And I've seen huge shifts like this, huge shifts where I'm literally like, you're like a different person right now. Let's say Suzanne, whatever the person's name is, you're different. I am sensing a different energy from you, and I'm so excited to see where this is going to go. And that usually is a sign of a trajectory that is taking them in a whole different, again, arena of possibilities. So it's a back to who are they being and how have they evolved. It's not about a metric, but about a stance of being more solid in their posture as a leader, whether it's an entrepreneur or an executive, how solid they are in that stance internally and externally, and how they're moving through the world, and the choices they're making, and the successes they're seeing from those new actions they're taking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you say, because leaders, you know how it is. We try and go away from the metrics to signals, but literally just understand, like, does the energy, the conversation, like you said, the vibe, are they lit up when they talk to you? Because I saw a difference in my client as well. Like she was like super tired in the beginning as VP. And then when she set the boundaries and worked on her energy audit, she was like, hey, thanks, Veena. She was more dressed up. Like you said, posture. She was just happier, right? Internally. And she lit up when talking about her work. It's that joy, right? You see a
Yes.
joy, you see a glow. We talk about glow up, right? So you can kind of feel it in your energetic feel. So kind of those kind of signals will really know if there's a true shift. And like you said, it's really about those small steps of growth. It's not like a destination. But if the client is really enjoying that becoming, right, stages. Absolutely. So going into other challenges that leaders face. So I know this comes up a lot, right? So abundance versus scarcity mindset, going back to the mindset, and about worth and money. So whether it's corporate when they're going into promotions, because I've seen a lot of women come like, hey, I'm not getting the compensation I deserve. Or an entrepreneur who's going into like, hey, I want to hit that revenue. So how do scarcity mindsets around money and worth show up in leadership decisions? And how do you help clients reframe receiving an abundance?
Yeah, so I would go focus on here in this question with the scarcity mindset. And the scarcity mindset is literally coming from a place of, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve, I don't have, I won't get, I'm not going to ask for. One of the big things I speak with and coach and guide women, whether it's a presentation or one-on-one, is about the importance of self-advocacy. And so when you know your worth, you can claim it. If you don't know your worth, you're going to wait to get it to be given to you or validated for you. And it may never come that way, because as women, we know from our experiences, this is my experience actually in my career and as an entrepreneur, but in my career, if I hadn't advocated when I'd gotten to the senior research director position, and I knew I was supposed to be in the VP level, and I kept thinking like, why isn't my boss giving me this title? It occurred to me one day, Natalie, you got to just ask for it, because she will just keep on using you, and I knew I was giving away way too much of her, doing a lot of her work. And so one day I just had a call with her, and I just said, I need to be vice president. If I'm not vice president in the next 3 months, I'm going to find a new whatever. I was just like, I am so sure that this is my role right now and I deserve it? And would you know, if I had not, well, because I said that, that's exactly what happened. I got my vice president title, which was one of my big goals, and I had earned it. But if I didn't think I deserved it, I could not have advocated for myself about it. So if I had a scarcity mindset that told me you just need to sit here and do all the work because you're not good enough, you're a woman of color, you don't have whatever. But I know at that point in my life, in my journey, I was so much more confident and saw all the stuff I was doing and all the ways I was helping my team and all the ways I was helping my boss, who was a senior VP at the time. And I'm like, shoot. Anyway, so it gets back to how we see ourselves and how we think we're being perceived by others. And so if we think we're being perceived by others as not worthy also, or not as valuable, or not as competent, or not as capable, or not as resource, whatever it is, we're not going to ask, demand, or promote or advocate for ourselves to get the things we really deserve, right? So in entrepreneurship, it's a little bit different. It's about doing the things to get you the visibility, to get you to attract so it's a different kind of a paradigm, I guess, if you will, in terms of like the scarcity mindset with an entrepreneur versus the scarcity mindset of an executive. But executive, you have to be always doing the work, not always, but intentionally doing the work to I would say like visibility, making sure that you are being seen in the right rooms, in the right spaces, speaking up for yourself, whatever it might be, but it's an idea, thought, or initiative, whatever it is. Same thing in entrepreneurship in terms of what do you know you could do? What do you have? What gifts do you have? And going down the path of seeing that to fruition and not believing that you will fail. Because another scarcity mindset is like, I'll fail or I'm not going to succeed. And so that's a real limiting belief that really truly limits where we go. We literally will be stuck in that mindset. So I think I've answered that question. I'm not sure. I forgot the end of the question, but
Yes, you did. Yeah. So, yeah, just receiving an abundance,
I
right?
want to say one more thing. So one
Yeah.
more thing, yes, that word, that is a huge word, receptivity. So one of the things I've learned on my own journey, and I've seen with clients I've worked with, is especially when we're very strategic, capable, ambitious, sometimes we're not good at receiving.
Yeah.
And that was me. And it still is a little bit of me. I'm not going to lie. Because I don't know, like I don't know if it's, I'm not going to say it's necessarily always from a worthiness standpoint or a dismissive standpoint, like compliments, something simple as compliments. I had a hard time for a long time accepting compliments. I would just go, yeah, no, whatever, and just dismiss it until I realized, what are you doing? Like, how you do, so it's like, and it was because maybe I didn't think I deserved it, or I felt kind of uncomfortable because I didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up getting compliments. I was not validated. So it was like, what is happening? I don't know. This is weird, right? That was how I experienced it. But a lot of times, high achieving, ambitious people, women, leaders give freely but can't receive. So an abundance mindset is about being able to receive what's there for you, what's meant for you, what you can own and claim as yours.
Yeah.
So that's important too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so love this conversation. And I do agree. I'm also in the same place of receiving, right? And abundance, it really comes from the foundation of what you deserve, like Natalie said. If you don't feel like you deserve something, you're not going to get it. You're not going to manifest it, right? So also limiting beliefs, like I have to work hard to earn money, which is what I thought. That's what I learned from my parents, right? But I didn't realize like, hey, you can get paid to exist, right? Someone was like, you just can't really, it works. Of course, you have to intentionally put the strategy out and put yourself out there, but you don't have to work so hard. Always be in masculine energy and open to receiving, right? So put yourself out there, be visible, but you don't have to like force it or chase or over give, right? So it's like you can be strong, but also soft, right? You can have the and, right? So you don't have to be like this or that. And I do agree with the receiving. I struggle to receive support. I was one of those alpha females. I was like, I don't need help. Like, I wanted to be the very independent boss babe as an entrepreneur. And I realized things were getting very stuck and stagnant. And I was like, what's going on? Why is everything blocked for me? And I realized like I was not open to receiving. I was, stubborn about it. And I was like, okay. So recently I have a team now and I was like, I really need the help. Like I was literally like one thing is be honest with yourself, right? So can you do this all by yourself? You don't need to do it alone. You don't need to be lonely.
Right.
Have a support group. I joined support groups, right? I was like, I don't know what energetics is sometimes. I don't know what somatic breath work is. Let me go into a group now. I found my soul tribe, and not because I chased. I was like in my power. I was like unapologetic myself, visible, and I found the soul tribe. I have a support. I have a team now, and it feels good. Just ease, right? And I deserve it, right? Because it came from that inner worth. So I
Yes.
love what you said, the abundance of opportunities. I also want to say that we're so stuck to like controlling the outcome. And I know that's a huge thing for high achieving.
Yeah.
I had this for a long, even now I still haven't. I'm like, I have to let go, right? You have to surrender and let go. Think of the universe. I don't want to sound too woo-woo, but think of the universe as your father. So ask for the universe, like, hey, I want this, I want that, I want to, maybe like a VP or a promotion. Work hard, work for it. I wouldn't say too hard, like just work for it, but let go of when and how, right? The opportunities abundance can come in any form,
I
where it's
say it
coming
as
from.
from my faith, I say, let go, let God. I mean, a woman of
Yeah,
Christian faith, but it's like you say universe, I say God. He's
right.
the source. And so yes, like we don't control the outcomes
Yeah,
as high achievers. I still, and I'm much older. Yet I have to just always like, Nali, let go, surrender, like you said, surrender, yield. You did your part. Let it come to fruition the way it's meant to. You can't control that. I don't control the
exactly.
weather. I don't, you know what I mean? We don't control so
Right.
much. So it's like that letting go part is huge. Doing your part, doing all you can do that's within your control without forcing or hustling to do it with integrity, and then releasing it to see what will unfold from that.
Exactly.
But it's hard. I know for
It
me it's
is.
still hard.
It is.
I always I'm also a strategic thinker, and I'm always like ahead of the
Right.
game, and I'm like, well this, and I'm like, oh, why didn't this happen with it? And then it's like, oh my God, stop.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like the hardest part for high achievers because we're go-getters. We're all used to like, hey, do we like get that goal accomplished? Having a balance of like, yeah, have an intention, a goal in mind, but then just let it go, right? And be more in the present. Enjoy. So even if you haven't reached that goal by February or by April, it's totally fine. But enjoy the process, right? And then you see that abundance comes in. That's where the abundance mindset comes in. The scarcity is more controlling, abundance is more just letting go. That's going more into your feminine energy, and you realize it's easier. You're not burnt out, right? So these are some things that just wanted to put it out there. So thank you so much for sharing as well. And this is an important question. And what advice do you give female leaders who are used to being the only or the first in the room and who fear vulnerability will diminish their credibility?
That's a great question. I've given whole presentations on visibility and psychological safety and all those things because yeah, so okay, where do I want to go here? So as a woman of the only, and I've been an only. I call myself a triple only.
Yeah.
I know what that feels like, and in my career I was an only, and I think for a long time it wasn't the primary thing, but it was definitely like they're like, what are they going to think of me? How can I show up? I have to show up this way, and again, back to for starting or code switching and all that. I think when you only there's so much armor, there's so much veil around who we truly are because we're protecting ourselves, because we don't feel safe in the environment, and we don't get to show up, we don't feel safe enough to show up in our true fullest selves. That's the challenge. But the flip side of that is not doing that means that when we have so much armor around our heart, our true being, we're not establishing trust. We're not making true connections. We're not actually feeling truly belonging in that environment. So that is also limiting our potential. So it's almost like and I've had people in rooms where they've asked these questions like, how do I get to, like where it's a male dominated environment, they don't feel safe, like how, and it's a tough question. It's a balancing act of, for where you are right now as an only a woman of color, whatever it might be, what feels aligned for you? What parts of yourself are you willing to show that feels authentic, that matters? We're not saying you have to show your whole full self, because I don't think any environment professionally really allows us to do that
Yeah.
safely. But what part can you unveil? unveil so that people can see and get to know you better so you can establish more true formed connections that will lead you to a bigger, higher place, as opposed to people just seeing you doing your work but not knowing you, so you don't come to mind. If you don't come to mind, you're not very visible in their minds. And so it's a very intricate question. It's literally down to the person and to where they want to go in that phase of their career or their business, and how they want to be perceived. But the more we hide, the more we code switch, the more we facade, the more we shrink, the more we don't use our voice, the more we dim our lights, the more we hide in the back, the more we don't get to the seat of the table, the less impact we make, the less influence we have, the less authority we have, the less visible we become, and then we don't get to be who we are. So there's the either or and the pro con of it all. And so it's a very individual decision, I think, Veena.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I respect people's decision around this, but I will tell them, especially if it's a one-on-one client, I will encourage them to, and I've had to do this many times, to be more visible, to be more vocal, so they can be more valued and respected within the context of their situation,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Because I will just say that, again, I've done presentations around visibility, and there's so much for women of fear of backlash, of fear of being misunderstood, of fear of privacy, of fear of not being truly fully seen properly. In it, there's so much consequences to visibility in all the arenas, but I would say there are bigger consequences to invisibility.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
some women have learned, there's actually a thing called intentional invisibility, where they actually have learned to, like, I'm not going to say what I feel. I'm going to just be quiet. I'm going to just even though I have opinion, they literally shrink back
Right.
because that's what they feel is the right way to be. So many women, you'd be
Right.
surprised.
Absolutely. Wow, this was just a great advice. And I loved how you said, because the cost of invisibility is actually higher than the visibility part. I've been there, I've done that. I had so many visibility blocks and it didn't get me anywhere. I had to shrink all the time. But here I am today, I had to overcome that block. And like I said, going back to that inner, and not everyone's vulnerable to share everything. And neither one of us are. There's still things I don't feel like sharing,
Absolutely.
and we're not safe. Just taking one step at a time. So, like you said, it depends on each person or each woman. But when it's like one example or one story, it doesn't even have to be like podcasting or put your video out there, but just be like one article. Maybe you just want to share something about yourself, or especially in the room, just maybe sharing
Raise your
something
hand.
people. Yeah, raise your hand. Just add like one insight you have. That's what I told my client, and she had the same thing. She was like, I don't know if I can get this promotion. And I was like, hey, go into the discussion forum. She's like, I don't know. Would I feel good enough? Would they accept me? And I was like, just put something, one insight that you found from your own life. Just kind of making sure that she gets more visible. And once she did, she got like so many comments, and she was like complimenting her. She was like being very complimented by her manager. So it's just like one thing, that one step doesn't have to be like 10 steps ahead, right? To build your credibility over time, it doesn't come overnight. I built my credibility on LinkedIn for best like 5, 6 years, right? It takes a while to build your brand, your credibility, be visible. But for women, I know it's a little difficult. Everyone's different, but do what works for you, right?
And
Don't
at
compare yourself to the others. Yeah.
the end of the day, it has to be in alignment with who you are. So
Yeah.
if LinkedIn isn't your like, for me, Instagram is like, ew, I'm there,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I literally, like, it's not. But I know a lot of people love Instagram. I don't love Instagram, so
Right.
I've always been more of a LinkedIn person too myself. But I'm saying, like, even LinkedIn lately has been like,
Right.
but I got to be somewhere, like in YouTube, But yeah, you just pick the one that fits you, that fits how you want to be seen, and just put your little baby step, baby step, baby step. I have one client where, I'll just say this, she's been working with me for a few years actually, and visibility has always been a challenge. She's very smart, very accomplished, all the things, but she literally was like, I do not want to be out there, Natalie. So she's launching a huge endeavor as an entrepreneur. It's an agritourism business really, and it's taken a few years, but they're the phase where they start, like, so her daughter has been just started posting about it on Instagram, and she's getting tens of thousands of views and how many likes and emails, and she's like literally like, this just happened recently, and I was like, wow, talk
Yeah.
about visibility now. Like
Yeah.
your business is now on Instagram, and people are seeing the growth and the progress, and they wanted to collaborate with you. So in
Exactly.
her in this example, another woman of faith where God has just opened up all these opportunities where literally she had like 300 emails after those 4 posts
Mhm.
about the video post on Instagram, 300 emails in the inbox. And
Wow.
it's not even the thing isn't live fully yet. It's still in progress. But that is what I guess that's the power that visibility can give us once we're ready to put our foot in the water and be ready to like for me, writing my book, first book, how many years ago? 2011. But I wasn't scared. I was like, I got to put this out there. And
Yeah.
I sold so many copies of From Be to Fabulous and gave away so many free copies. I don't even know the hundreds of, whatever, not hundreds of women, tens of thousands of women who've been impacted by my book.
Great.
But it's like, it's out there.
Yeah, exactly. And like we talked about before, even I just started this podcast 2 months ago, and I was like, I don't know what's gonna do it. Maybe even if it impacts one person, right? Whether it's an article or your book, or even it's like even one-on-one call, a coffee chat can impact that person, right? What you've said. That itself is visibility, right? But I'd rather have people, just take one step in whatever is aligned, like you said, LinkedIn. Sometimes it's aligned, sometimes it's not aligned. I just actually went onto Threads. So
Oh,
I found my soul tribe on Threads. Like I didn't even know, and I'm more visible. I got so many people coming in for collaborations already within a week. Right. So whatever platform that's aligned to you and who you are, just put yourself out there. Like I said, you don't have to like hustle and like chase after people, but just be in people's fields, right? Just like, hey, I do this. This is who I am. I love myself, right? And in a nice, kind way. And they'll see like you'll get so much opportunity. But it's really that energy that you're going into. It's really not what you write. It's a lot of its energy. And like you said, I sometimes just post from a place of, I felt creative today. I really feel called to say something today. And you get so many opportunities rather than like, when are you going to post it? What exactly did you say? Going into perfectionism.
it's
So it's
more
like,
like being authentic, really, is
yeah,
the post that actually ends up getting, honestly, on LinkedIn, I'll just say right now, the posts that get more views when I post is about when I post about my actual life as opposed to a thought leadership thing. Like thought leadership
exactly.
isn't as like using my word right now. Thought leadership isn't as valued on LinkedIn right now as opposed to like I went to this event and like you know what I mean? Like it's the
Right.
algorithm keeps changing. So it's always like at the end of the day, it's about okay, what feels right for me. I am a thought leader. I love putting my thoughts out there, but sometimes LinkedIn is like, whatever. But it's at the end of the day, like you're saying, even if one person liked it, somebody read it or whatever, somebody saw it.
But that's good enough, right? And we
Yeah,
think like, "Oh, I didn't get like 15 likes and it's not about likes. It's not about metrics. It's just on one end. But even if like you post something, especially I know it's with LinkedIn, like some people might not like it, and that's okay. That's just how LinkedIn is. But when you see like one person would have watched it and you realize maybe 2, 3 months later, hey, I listened to your podcast, or hey, I saw that post, it resonated, right? It's just like that impact you get when you see someone like, hey, I felt seen when I read that post of yours, when I watched that,
that's
right? It's like,
happened.
yeah. And
I had a prospect who said she didn't like a post, said she read a post on executive presence. She didn't like it, but that's what got her to do a call with me. And I'm like, oh wow, she didn't even like the post. But you see, so you don't even know. Like, it may not even be a like, but somebody's read it and seen it, and they're like, oh, it
right,
resonated. I want to get to know her more.
exactly. And everyone's watching, right? Everyone's watching, even though I still shop. I used to think like, oh, no one's liking, should I post it? But there are watching out there, right? So keep showing up as your true self, your beautiful, unapologetic self, and you'll reap the rewards very soon, right? So, and like
Yeah.
I said, let it go and do your thing. Just be the goddess you are, right? And that's what this is all about. So, wow, this is an amazing conversation. And Natalie, what's next for you? New programs, launches, creative visions you're calling in?
Yes, I'm actually launching this thing this month, later this month, collect a group coaching program called the Whole Woman Collective. And it actually is
Nice.
geared towards high achievers who want to, at the place in their lives where they realize they want to live, lead, without apology, where they honor themselves, where they're not giving of themselves, where they're learning how to establish a rhythm of life that really is aligned with who they are. It's a 6-week group coaching program. And I'm just hoping that people will really, I know high achievers are so reluctant to like invest in themselves, but
Right.
even as a group coaching program, but I'm like, really, I have done so many workshops in person. This is going to be virtual in person workshops where the energy in the room is just like after 2 hours, it's like what? It's like
Exactly.
sparking. It's like women are like getting ahas and crying. I mean, literally in a group format. And I know what I'm able to do as a facilitator and what this can do for women. So I'm just praying that the women who need this show up, sign up. It's not expensive. Sign up and go and be a part of Whole Woman Collective starting March 24th, I believe. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. And everyone who's listening, I do agree. I mean, like a lot of high achievers, we hesitate to invest, but that's going back into what we talked about, the money mindset, right? The more you invest in yourself and in your becoming, you will go places, right? So please invest in Natalie's collective and group coaching. She's great. She's amazing. I already feel like I'm hyped up on this conversation. So I know you'll feel it as well. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing, Natalie.
Thank
And
you.
and going into rapid fire round.
Okay.
So let's see, like a voice personality edition. So, hmm, what's your hype song before a big stage moment?
My hype song. Okay, okay. I'm every woman. I don't know if you know that song, but it's Chaka Khan. I don't know.
Amazing. I love that. It's all vibing, all that. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so lipstick shade or signature accessory that makes you feel unstoppable.
Ooh. Ooh, that's a hard one. I have red lipstick, yeah, like really bright red, or fabulous earrings. I don't know.
Yeah, likewise. The bold lip and the long dangling ears is my
Yeah.
thing. So it just takes it just makes me unstoppable, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so let's see. If confidence had a scent, what would it smell like?
It would smell like, oh God, I have this incense and it's called Goddess. Oh my God, let me see what it's in it. Goddess, give me a second.
Hmm.
It smell like rose, but no, it's called Goddess Glow. Somebody gifted it to me.
Ooh.
And peppermint, jasmine, and myrrh. Okay, and
Wow. I can just smell it just by you saying it. Like, oh my God, goddess glow.
Goddess Glow.
I love that. Who is it by? I'm gonna kind of probably get that scent.
It's who's the God, my eyes. World. I'll send it to you afterwards. I can't read it right
Okay.
now, but it looks like this.
Okay, awesome. I want to get that. The goddess. Oh, I just feel that vibe already.
It's
Amazing.
very
Yes.
strong.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I bought one recently with Burberry. It was just like a very pleasant smell. It's
Hmm.
just I would definitely recommend it. So I'll send that over as well. I love this. And one more. So finish this sentence. When a woman reclaims her voice, she
She becomes unapologetically who she is. She's always been meant to be.
amazing. Yes, absolutely. Wow. So this conversation, I just felt, well, thank you. It felt so inspiring. So what today's conversation reminds us is that the next level of leadership isn't louder. It's truer. So reclaiming your voice doesn't mean becoming someone new. It means returning to who you've always been without the armor of overperformance. When authority is embodied, visibility feels clean. When identity is aligned, influence feels natural. So when you stop proving, you start leading. So if you're navigating a transition or sensing that your current level of success no longer reflects who you're becoming, I want you to invite you into a complimentary vision collaboration session with me. This is a focused, strategic place where we explore the identity that you're stepping into, the patterns you're ready to release, and the aligned leadership presence you're here to embody. So you can book your session through the link in the show notes. And as I prepare to launch Sovereign Rise, it's a global collective, a community for soul-led leaders building from identity, integrity, and impact. So I'm also calling it Aligned Collaborators. So if you feel called to be a community builder, a founding sister or brother, right? A strategic partner, a speaker, or a conscious contributor to this movement, you can either reach out to me on LinkedIn and also book a collab coffee chat. And if something in you stirred during this episode, that might be your signal, right? So until next time, lead boldly. Thank you so much, Natalie, for this inspirational conversation and for your presence and light. Lead truthfully, and most importantly, lead as yourself.